The rain came down hard tonight. It always seemed to rain hard in this city. The streets below were slick, reflecting the neon signs in distorted, bleeding colors. This city never slept. It just tossed and turned, muttering in its sleep. My apartment wasn't much, just a box high above the grimy streets, a place to lick my wounds, the distant wail of a siren, a common lullaby here. Tonight felt heavier, though. The usual city symphony had a discordant note. I'd been feeling it for days. Maybe it was just the city finally getting under my skin for good. Or maybe it was something else entirely, something lurking just out of sight, waiting for the right moment to pounce. I paced the small confines of my living room. The city outside was a concrete jungle, and this apartment my shabby cage. I had a drink, then another. The cheap whiskey burned, but it didn't burn away the feeling. The shadows danced tonight, stretching from the corners like grasping fingers. Every familiar object seemed alien. The coat stand looked like a gaunt figure. It was the kind of light that played tricks on your eyes. The truth of the room, the truth of my solitude. An unease had settled deep within my bones. I told myself it was the weather. Drip, drip, drip. Each drop echoed in the silence. It felt like a drumbeat heralding an approaching doom. Solitude. I used to crave it, but tonight the solitude felt different. The shadows weren't just shadows. They were hiding places. My own reflection looked back at me like a stranger. I stood by the window watching the rain. Down below, cars swished past. I was anchored here with the feeling that the world was holding its breath, waiting for something to break. It was just another Tuesday, but there was a prickle on my skin. The kind you get when you know you're being watched. A sense that the ordinary rhythm of the night had been disturbed. Something was coming. I'm not a man who scares easy, but tonight, something was chipping away at me. A cold, unfamiliar dread. It felt elemental, primal. I just wanted the night to end. Little did I know it was just beginning. The quiet was shattered by a buzz. My phone, lying face down on the dusty side table, it vibrated against the wood, an angry, insistent sound. I wasn't expecting a call, not at this hour. Few people had my number, fewer still would use it. I picked it up. The screen glowed, a stark rectangle of light in the gloom. A new message. My heart gave a little kick. That strange feeling from earlier, the unease, it sharpened. Like a dog pricking its ears at a sound I couldn't yet hear. The sender ID made my blood run cold. It was my own name, my own number, staring back at me from the screen. How was that possible? A glitch? A spoof? My mind scrambled for a rational explanation, but the city's oppressive weight, the night's strange mood, it all conspired against logic. This felt different. This felt wrong. Like a crack had appeared in the fabric of reality, and something had just slipped through, something meant for me. A cold dread began to seep into my veins, colder than the cheap whiskey. Then I saw the timestamp. It wasn't now. It was 5 minutes from now. 5 minutes into the future. A cold sweat broke out on my forehead. My hand tightened on the phone. This wasn't a simple prank. This wasn't some network error. The numbers on the screen were clear, undeniable. It was a message sent from a time that hadn't happened yet. The air in the room seemed to thicken, to press in on me. The dripping faucet faded. The city noise outside went silent. All that existed was me, the phone, and those impossible digits. My breath hitched. The unease I'd felt all evening, that vague premonition of something bad, it now had a focus, a terrifying anchoring point. This was it. The knot in my gut tightened into a fist of ice. The city wasn't just dreaming troubled dreams tonight, it was having a nightmare, and I was right in the middle of it. The phone felt heavy in my hand like a cursed artifact, a harbinger. I hadn't even read the message yet, but I already knew it wasn't going to be good news. My thumb hovered over the notification. A part of me didn't want to open it, didn't want to know. I wanted to throw the phone against the wall, just pretend this wasn't happening, but that wasn't my way. Never had been. So I took a ragged breath, steeled myself, and I tapped the screen. The message opened, just a few words, stark, brutal, leave the house, now, don't look back, don't wait. The words burned into my retinas, simple, direct, utterly terrifying, no explanation, no context, just a raw, desperate command. Leave the house, now, my own number, my future self apparently, warning me. My mind reeled. This had to be a joke, a sick, elaborate prank, but who would do this and how? The future timestamp, my own number. It didn't add up to any prank I'd ever heard of. The anxiety I'd been nursing all night bloomed into full-blown fear. A cold, sharp fear that tasted like metal in my mouth. The shadows in the room seemed to deepen, to writhe. Was this what the night had been leading up to? This impossible, terrifying message? I read the message again and again, as if repetition would somehow change its meaning, or reveal a hidden clue, a way out. But the words remained the same, unflinching, urgent, a warning from myself, from a version of me that was 5 minutes ahead. 5 minutes into whatever horror was coming. What could be so bad? What could happen in the next few minutes that would prompt such a desperate plea? The city outside, usually a source of grim comfort in its shared misery, now felt like a distant, uncaring entity. My heart hammered against my ribs, a frantic drummer heralding chaos. I thought about the feeling of being watched earlier, the oppressive atmosphere. Was this it? Was this the other shoe dropping? The message offered no solace, no explanation, just a stark choice: believe the unbelievable or dismiss it and face whatever came next. The air crackled with a tension that was almost physical. My instincts, honed by years of navigating the city's underbelly, screamed at me. They screamed that this was real, deadly real. I stared at the phone, the glowing screen, the only source of light I could focus on. The words, "Leave the house now," pulsed with an infernal rhythm. My apartment, once a shabby sanctuary, now felt like a trap. Every creak of the old building, every distant siren, every gust of wind rattling the window pane sounded like a prelude to doom. The warning was clear, but the why was a gaping black hole of terrifying possibilities. What had my future self seen? What was he running from? Or more chillingly, what was he trying to prevent me from experiencing? The seconds ticked by on the wall clock, each one a hammer blow against my resolve. The 5-minute mark from the message's timestamp was approaching. Fast, too fast. My mind raced, a chaotic jumble of fear and disbelief. Should I grab my keys, my coat, run out into the storm-lashed streets without a second thought, or should I stay, barricade the door, try to fight whatever was coming? The sheer absurdity of it all fought against the primal fear the message had ignited, a text from the future. It was insane. Yet the dread felt undeniably real. This wasn't like any fear I'd known. Not the fear of a known enemy, a physical threat you could see and fight. This was a fear of the unknown, the impossible. It gnawed at the edges of my sanity. The message wasn't just a warning, it was a contamination. It had infected my reality, twisted it into something monstrous. The silence of the apartment, once broken only by the drip and the rain, now hummed with a malevolent energy. I felt exposed, vulnerable, like a target painted on my back. The choice was mine, but it felt like no choice at all. To ignore it felt like suicide. To obey it felt like madness. I looked around the small room at the familiar, shabby furniture. The coat stand still looked like a gaunt figure, but now it seemed to be beckoning me towards the door. The shadows weren't just hiding places, they were advancing. The rational part of my brain screamed hoax. But the cold dread coiling in my stomach, the prickling unease that had been my companion all night, whispered a far more sinister truth. Something was terribly wrong, and time was running out. The phone screen glowed with impossible words. Leave the house now. My own name, my own number, a timestamp from the future. My first instinct was to laugh, but the chill wasn't laughing. It was a deep, primal dread. I didn't move. Run? Where? This was something else, something that made my apartment feel like a coffin closing in. Instead, I stood there, a statue carved from fear and disbelief, an instinct that screamed danger, even as my brain struggled to catch up. The choice remained: heed the impossible warning or face the unknown consequences, and my inaction was in itself a choice. I forced my legs to move, not toward the door. I began to pace. With every step, the old floorboards groaned, sounds I'd heard 1,000 times, sounds I'd never truly noticed until now. Tonight, they weren't just the complaints of an aging building. They sounded like footsteps echoing my own. My senses were on a razor's edge. The familiar was becoming menacingly unfamiliar. The dripping faucet in the kitchen, drip, drip, drip. It was a deliberate, mocking tap, like someone drumming their fingers impatiently, waiting. The real threat wasn't a leaky pipe, it was something far more insidious, something that had already found its way inside, just the old house breathing. It felt like an ancient beast, stirring from a long slumber, its attention slowly, inexorably focusing on me. My eyes strained, playing tricks. Or were they finally seeing what had been there all along? The shadows deepened, shifting, alive. The coat stand cast a silhouette like a tall, gaunt figure waiting. I blinked, but the unsettling images persisted. I caught my reflection. For a moment, the face staring back didn't look like my own, a chilling premonition of what was to come. The boundaries of reality felt like they were fraying. Was I losing my mind, or was the house trying to warn me? The unease was a living thing now. A chill permeated the apartment, a coldness beyond the storm. It was as if a door to some frigid place had opened, letting out ancient ice. The air grew heavy, thick with an unspoken threat. The silence screamed louder than any noise, then an earthy scent, damp and cloying with something metallic underneath, like blood. It made the hairs on the back of my neck bristle. My apartment no longer felt like my own. It had been invaded by something I could feel with every fiber of my being. The time allotted by the text had passed. No horror had burst through the door, no monster materialized, but the atmosphere screamed otherwise. The cold, the silence, the scent, these weren't my imagination. Something in the house was holding its breath, waiting. An unseen hunter was patiently stalking me. I was here, and something was here with me. I'd ignored the warning. The house felt actively hostile. This was the calm before the storm. Leave the house. I hadn't listened. It had sealed my fate. The next move wasn't mine. The silence shattered. A knock, sharp, hard. This was a summons. Each knock echoed like a gunshot. My heart tried to beat its way out. I froze. The waiting was over. Whatever game the night was playing was aimed squarely at me. Terror washed over me. The goddamn text message burned in my memory. Then it came again. This wasn't a casual visit, but an appointment. The door was the bait. It had all been leading to this visitor. This was it, the point of no return. I had to see what horror my future self tried to save me from. My legs finally moved, slow and heavy, each step toward the door a descent into hell. The floorboards shrieked under my weight, betraying me in the silence. I strained to hear anything, nothing but my own frantic heartbeat. The metallic scent grew stronger as I reached the door. My hand hovered over the cold brass peephole, fear rooting me in place. The warning echoed, "Don't look back, don't wait." But I had waited. Now I had to look. I pressed my eye to the glass. The hallway, warped and dim, flickered under a dying bulb. For a moment, nothing, just stained wallpaper and scuffed linoleum. Then, a shape emerged from the shadows near my doorframe. A figure, my height, my build, slumped shoulders. Familiar, terribly familiar. The face was hidden, but the menace radiated from it. I knew before I truly saw that something was terribly, irrevocably wrong with the man at my door. Then he lifted his head. My world spun. It was me, my face, but twisted, corrupted. Blood smeared across that face, matting the hair, soaking the shirt, my shirt. The metallic tang in the air was him. Whose blood was it? The sheer volume was monstrous. But the eyes, two crimson points of light, burning with hunger and ancient malice. They fixed on the peephole, unblinking, as if they saw me. My body shook with nausea and cold sweat. This thing, this abomination wearing my face, was no prank or dream. It was real. The warning had been a gross understatement. This bloody, red-eyed parody of myself was the visitor, and it was here. My ruin had arrived. I stared at the thing through the peephole, paralyzed. Then a crash, glass shattering violently from upstairs, my apartment's attic window broken. Another entry point, another breach. The thing at the door was silent, as if listening too. Was it in two places at once? My mind reeled. I tore myself from the peephole. The image of those red eyes burned into my vision. The silence returned, heavy and expectant, but the sound from above called to me. A new terror. My choices vanished. Survival was all that mattered now. My legs moved toward the attic stairs, away from the door and its bloody sentinel. The storm outside howled through the broken window above. The stairs, steep and shrouded in darkness, led to a place I rarely visited. Each step creaked, echoing my dread. The air grew colder, the scent of rain and broken glass overpowering. Rain lashed the attic floor, the wind a mournful wail. The attic, once just storage, now felt hostile and alien. At the top, the opening loomed, a black square, wind howling through it. I paused, breathless, peering into the darkness. Only the faint light from below cast my trembling shadow ahead. My eyes adjusted to the gloom. Amidst the boxes and shadows, I saw it. Another me near the shattered window. The storm illuminated its form, bloodier, more ravaged than the first. Its clothes hung in tatters, skin caked in blackened blood. Red eyes, fiercer than before, locked onto mine. It stood motionless, a statue of gore and malice. The air was thick with its presence, the stench of blood and storm. I was trapped between two horrors. Then it moved, just its head. Slowly eyes, never leaving mine. A guttural, twisted version of my voice rumbled out, "You should have left." Not a threat, but a verdict. The warning from the future, spoken by my own ruined mouth. Hope finally died. "You should have left," echoed in the attic. A final judgment. The warning from my phone blazed in my mind, too late. No more denial, only the cold truth of my inaction. Trapped. One horror at the door, another in the attic. My home, once a sanctuary, was now my tomb. Every shadow, every gust of wind sang a dirge for my end. Any fight I had left crumbled to ash. This wasn't a battle, it was an execution. The memory of the text, "Leave the house, now." 5 minutes mocked me. My fatal indecision had sealed my fate. What were they? These grotesque doppelgangers wearing my face, yet terrifyingly alien? Were they demons conjured from some whispered ritual, or manifestations of my own buried darkness? Their origin was a mystery I wouldn't survive to unravel. Their intent, though, brutality clear. They were here to unmake me, to drag me screaming into the abyss. A sound from below, something weighty was being dragged across the floor. The thing at the door was moving, coming for me. They were closing in relentlessly. These were my last moments of lucidity, only a vast acceptance of the inevitable. My life was ending here. The universe wouldn't even pause to notice. Their red eyes, the stench of blood. A growl rumbled from the encroaching darkness. Then it lunged. It consumed everything. It consumed me.